Hey guys, it's Jake here with etrailer. Today we have a 2019 Grand Design Reflection fifth wheel, and we're going to be taking a look at the etrailer.com hub and drum assemblies. This kit is going to be designed to fit 12-inch brake assemblies. If you need new brakes too, chances are you do. If you're looking for new drums, you're probably going to need new brakes. We've got those available on our website. You just want to make sure that they fit the correct axle capacity that you have on your trailer. The brake drum is designed to work with brakes that are 5,200 or 6,000 pound axles. Again, like I said, it's going to be a 12-inch diameter to be able to fit those 12-inch drum brakes. The bolt pattern on this specific kit is going to be a 6 on 5.5 pattern, so that means there are 6 bolts and they are 5.5 inches from center to center of bolt. Now, they can be a little bit difficult to measure, but hopefully if you look on our website, you can follow a bolt pattern measurement, or you can pick up the tool that we actually have on our website, slide it right over, and it'll tell you exactly what size your bolt pattern is. What I really like about this particular kit is that it's going to come with everything you need on the hub itself side. It's going to come with your new end caps here, your new hub caps. It'll come with the inner bearing, the outer bearing. The races are already in there, and the inner seal is already in there because they pre-pack them from the factory. So when you get it home, all you have to do is take your old drum off, take your brakes off, put your new brakes on, and then slide this drum into place. They have 2 end caps that keep the grease inside for packaging. Take the one end cap off, slide it on, pull the other end cap off, and then put your castle nut back on and tighten it down, get it set correctly so that it's moving properly, and then put a little bit extra grease in there from your grease gun. Typically, when you're doing your packing bearings yourself, you're gonna need a tub of grease. You're gonna need at least a half a tube of grease for each hub to be able to pack them correctly. With this one, all it takes is about 5 pumps of a grease gun, and you've got the inside of that full. Now, when you're thinking about how many of these kits to pick up, they are gonna come 1 to a kit, so whenever you're doing a brake job on a camper, we always recommend doing the whole axle. So if you're having issues with your rear brakes, if you have a tandem axle or a triple axle, we highly recommend installing them together in pairs. So you want to get a left and right side. If your front brakes look okay, it's not a huge deal, but definitely when you're picturing a brake setup on one side of the camper or the other, you want to replace them both, because if you have higher pulling power or higher braking power on the one side, it's going to constantly want to pull that camper to the left, and this is going to outpower the other side. So replacing them together gives you nice even pressure, and then for maintenance purposes, you know that you replace them at the same time, and there's no question about that. Me personally, your brakes should be working, if you have a tandem axle, 4 should be working all together at the same time to apply the same braking power. So what I recommend is, just kind of think about it. I would replace all 4 brake pads at the same time and all 4 brake drums if you need to. A lot of times you don't have to replace the brake drums, but if you see any scoring on the inside of the drum or any scoring on the magnet itself, or if you're unfortunate enough to wear your brake pads all the way down to the rivets that hold them in place, then you're gonna have to replace the drum because you've got scoring on the outside. Just be very, very careful about inspecting them. We'll show you a little clip when we're doing the install itself to show you what a scored drum looks like and when you need to replace it. Speaking of the installation, these are going to be very, very easy to get in place. I'd say the hardest part about this install is just figuring out how to get your camper up off the ground so that you can do it. Let's go ahead and show you how to do it. To begin our installation, we're going to take our wheels and tires off of our camper so that we can get to the brakes. At this point, if you have tire sensors on your wheels and tires, you want to keep track of which is the front and which is the back, because you want to put those back in the same spot, or else it'll give you false readings for whichever place your tires are in. I will just take our wheel and tire, pull it off, set it out of the way. Now we'll take a flathead screwdriver. You want to have a pretty thin tip on the edge or a pretty fine edge, and we'll just tap it in behind this cap until you see the screwdriver slide behind it like that, and then you just have to rotate it, prying around it till the cap comes off. Now we'll take that same flathead screwdriver, put it behind your castle nut cap there. Right off. Your axles may have a pin. If it's a cotter pin style with the pin going through, just straighten that out and pull it out. Now when you're dealing with this kind of stuff, because everything in here is going to be greasy or dirty, it's not a bad idea, since this has to go back on, to set it on top of a piece of cardboard just to keep everything clean. Now we'll take our hub, pull out. When you pull out, there's going to be a washer that we need to save and your outer bearing. There's the washer. And our bearing is right behind it. We'll take our hub, pop it out, set it on the ground. Now when you get to this point, with drum brakes, it's not a guarantee that it's always going to be the pad. There's three things that you want to check. The first thing being the pads themselves, which in our case, the pads look pretty good. They're about the same thickness as our new pads that we're getting ready to put on. The other things that you want to check are going to be the magnet itself, because this is what's going to apply the brakes. So you want to feel the face of the magnet. If it does not feel like glass, then it probably needs to be replaced. Something got in this drum that is causing scoring to happen on this, and sometimes that's as little as a really, really inexpensive set of brake pads that have a lot of dust, and that dust can get trapped in here and then cause scoring. So you want to feel the magnet. We can feel scoring on there, or grooves, and then you want to feel the face of where the magnet is dragging, and there's a lot of scoring on this brake drum. So with this setup, we're going to have to replace the brake pads and the brake drums to be able to get that fresh, new, clean start so we have good brake power. Now we're going to take a 14mm socket and remove the 5 nuts that are holding our brake assembly in place. And we can take our brake assembly, we'll pull it off. You're going to have a couple wires attached here. All I'm going to do is cut this clip that they're held on by. And then wherever they're connected, you can see here, this is our factory wire that goes into our axle. Let's take that, cut that off. Now we're going to take our brake assembly and put it back, or put it onto our studs. And you know which one is the correct one. You'll get 2 left side ones, 2 right side ones. The easiest way to tell is to just match it up with the brakes that you're taking off, so you make sure the magnet's in the same orientation, that it will rotate towards the front of the vehicle. Put the nuts back on and tighten them down. You want to tighten these down in a star pattern just like you would with your wheels. Then you want to come back with a torque wrench and torque all this hardware down to the specifications per the manufacturer for whatever axle you have. Now we need to connect up our wiring. So we're going to strip back our wires. Looks like we have a double jacketing here. And these wires do not matter which one they're connected to on the brake cylinder. We are using heat shrink butt connectors in order to ensure a nice clean connection for the years to come. Now we'll want to take a rag, clean all the old grease off, especially because we're going to be switching over to a set of pre-packed brake drums, and they're packed with it's like a high temp marine grease. So it's a different type of grease, so you want to get all that old stuff out. We're going to take our grease gun, pump it in here a few times, get that red grease out of that slot here, and then we can get some new marine grease on here. Now before we lift our new brake drum up into place, we'll want to take some grease and you just want to match whatever grease is in your bearings. So we've got marine grease in there, so we're going to use marine grease on our spindle here. We'll just put a little bit on the spindle so that we don't have any dry spots on it. Wipe that on. And you definitely want to get yourself some gloves when you're doing this because it can get real messy, and some of this grease is actually not good to get on your skin. Now we can take our brake drum, slide it over our spindle. And we'll pop this cap off. And these pre-packed drums are really nice because they come with a lot of grease in them, so you don't need a whole lot to pump in there after we're done. Make sure your bearing slides over. Take our washer, put it back in place, and follow that with our nut. Now we're going to take an 1.5 inch socket, slide it over our axle nut, and you want to torque this down. We usually like to do about 50 pounds, and what that's going to do is that's going to ensure that our brake drum is seated properly all the way back, and then we'll back the nut off. So now that we've got it torqued down to 50, we're just going to break this loose. And we'll thread it back on until it's hand tight. We'll give the drum a few spins. See that it's still spinning with little resistance, but you can hear the brakes dragging on the inside. That's good. Want it right there. And we'll take our tension ring and clip it back on. Then you want to take a grease gun, and we're going to fill grease until we start seeing it squirt out of this outer bearing. There we go, just like that. Now we can take our cap, put it back into place. Once we get that all put back together, we can go ahead and repeat that process for however many brake assemblies that you're doing. Well guys, once you get everything put back together, you can put your wheels and tires back on your camper and you're ready to hit the road. Hopefully this video helped you decide whether or not etrailer.com hub and drum assemblies are going to be right for you and your 2019 Grand Design Reflection.